From Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central. I'm Adeshawa Josh. Our top stories tonight. Call to rebuild Nigeria's Northeast intensify as News Central TV hosts town hall series in Borno State. Senate committee probes NNPC Limited over 210 trillion naira discrepancies in financial statement. And Russian president and Chinese counterpart call for de-escalation in the Middle East, criticize Israel's attack on Iran.
In business, Goldman Sachs warns oil prices could surpass $90 mark as possible East tensions mount.
In sports, Super Eagles defender, central defender Semi Ajayi joins championship side Hull City, becoming the 7th Nigerian to join the English side.
Welcome everyone. Tonight begins right now. We begin tonight in Borno State, where News Central's first ever town hall series in the Northeast was held on Thursday. The series is a platform that encourages public debate on both local and national issues, and it was attended by representatives from religious bodies, civil society, women's groups, as well as the Borno State Governor, Babagana Zulum. News Central's Omolola Ololade has more.
Maiduguri, the Borno State capital, was the latest bus stop for News Central as it held the latest of its town hall series, bringing together the government, people and other stakeholders in Borno State to address issues bedeviling the state.
The executive governor himself is the one who came to join us.
The Borno State governor was in attendance, becoming the first governor to attend a News Central town hall series since inception.
I want to commend the government of Borno State.
Governor Babagana Zulum commended the people of Borno State for their resilience while giving assurance that the lingering cases of insecurity are being addressed.
Compared to what we had before, to our current situation, the line of demarcation is very distinct and cannot be crossed. We have seen sea changes, and I believe people of Borno State have appreciated the support of the federal government and indeed the support of the armed forces and that of the Borno State government in this direction. But a lot has to be done again. I want to assure you that government of Borno State under my distinguished leadership will work with the federal government of Nigeria in order to address some of the lingering challenges that we are facing currently.
During the heydays of insurgency,
although Borno State has made significant progress in waging the war against insecurity, traditional rulers and civil society organizations believe the government needs to do more, while the people must also play their part.
we are in a state of what we call restoration of civil authority. People have been victimized. It is not every case that is criminalized and people are treated as criminals. Rather, we use ADR. Majority of the cases that are coming to us are coming from the traditional leaders in the state, from religious leaders, from youth organizations.
Do more to strengthen our local security to ensure that every community is liberated from terrorism.
Our expectation now in the post-insurgency period is for us as citizens of Borno and Nigeria to come up strongly and stand for our dear community and state. I witnessed quite a number of town halls meetings.
The people expressed their appreciation to News Central for changing the narrative on the reportage of post-insurgency in Borno and promoting topics focusing on women in conflict.
It calls on all governments and stakeholders to protect women in conflict, to prevent harm and abuses on women during conflict, as well as to promote and include women in issues that affect them and their society in conflicts.
If you look at the narrative specifically coming from News Central, it's something commendable because they are trying as much as possible to report, change or take a different angle from what we see on daily basis as narrative in the media.
This is the first of its kind in Borno State, and it will not be the last time we will do this. We have that commitment to be the platform that opens up and gives you an opportunity to express yourself.
We want to hear.
The conversations at the town hall makes it evident that the government and people of Borno State remain determined to restore the state's lost glory, and platforms like this provide the opportunity to coalesce effort in the right direction.
Historical perspectives.
In Lagos for News Central, Omolola Ololade.
News Central's Managing Director and Editor-in-Chief, Kayode Akintemi, paid a courtesy visit to Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum shortly before the town hall. Let's bring you that report.
Commended News Central TV for its timely and balanced coverage of events in Borno State, especially in spotlighting developmental strides and humanitarian efforts in the region.
I am wishing you all the best. And thank you very much for coming. And then let me use the opportunity to commend the News Central for the timely reporting that they have been doing in Borno State. And we wish to partner with your station very well, so that our activities shall be known to the generality of the people of Nigeria.
Governor Zulum highlighted the government's ongoing efforts in the resettlement of over 1.5 million internally displaced persons across the state, an effort he described as one of the most ambitious post-conflict recovery programs in Nigeria. He also reiterated the state's commitment to the rehabilitation and reintegration of repentant Boko Haram members.
When we took over power, we decided to assess the situation, and then had a stakeholders consultative forum whereby we resolved to implement some key decisions that will ensure ending the insurgency. We felt that the kinetic measures alone will never end the insurgency, because the non-kinetics are also very important. So we decided to look into the socio-economic and political dimensions of the crisis. Poverty, amongst others, are some of the factors that led to the insurgency. One of the recommendations that we adopted is that we shall support the victims of the insurgency by providing them with better educational facilities, better health facilities, means of livelihood, amongst others. This is one of the recommendations. The second recommendation is that we should forgive the Boko Haram members, those that are willing to surrender. And then we decided to establish a local solution to this problem. We have transitional justice mechanisms that will address all these issues. So since last 3 to 4 years to date, we received nothing fewer than 300,000 repentant Boko Haram members and their families.
Governor Zulum further praised the cordial relationship between the Borno State government and the Nigerian army, stating that the synergy has played a crucial role in improving security and facilitating humanitarian access across the region.
Our non-kinetic measures have yielded a very positive result because we received tremendous support from the Nigerian army. Honestly speaking, the Borno State government is working well with the Nigerian army. Hitherto, we used to have some certain problems that it has been a long time that we are maintaining a very cordial relationship. And because of this, a lot has been achieved.
New Central Town Hall meeting in Borno signals a new level of commitment by the station to deepening our reportage of development in Borno State and the Northeast.
Let's bring in Ambassador Sheriff Benny Sheikh, Director of Training and Recruitment at the Borno State University. He joins me from Maiduguri. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I believe you can hear me. What were your takeaways from the town hall?
I can hear you.
My question to you is, what were your takeaways from the town hall?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I'm not very loud.
My question to you is, what were your takeaways from the town hall? I understand there's a bit of a delay, so take your time. My team and I are taking a minute to fix that technical glitch. We'll come back to Ambassador Sheriff Benny Sheikh. In the meantime, the Senate Public Accounts Committee has launched a probe into 210 trillion naira discrepancies in NNPC's financial statements. The Chief Financial Officer of the NNPC, Adedakpo Segun, attributed 107 trillion naira to joint venture cash calls, but the committee demands clarity. Chairman of the committee, Aliyu Wadada, has given the NNPC till June the 25th to provide answers to all questions raised, warning that the inconsistencies cannot be ignored.
Key issues are on the accrued expenses and the receivables. The figure of the accrued expenses are is 103 trillion, while the figure of the receivables is 107 trillion. So in total, figure-wise, you are talking 210 trillion naira.
Those two numbers essentially, essentially wash out. And the numbers, if you look at the audited financials for the year 2022, it shows a particular number, and the retention fees, legal fees, and auditors' fees represent essentially what that number is.
The project inauguration series by the Ministry of the Federal Capital Territory resumed on Thursday with the inauguration of the newly constructed Collector Road, CN2 on Ahmadu Bello Way in Mabushi to Judges' Quarters in Katakpe Road and other roads. President Bola Tinubu was represented by Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, who commended the vision of the FCT Minister, Nyesom Wike, to revamp the infrastructural landscape of the Federal Capital Territory. Immediately after the commissioning, Wike went on inspection tour on the ongoing construction of Judges' Quarters and Phase 2 of the Otera Road N5.
As I commission this newly constructed Zakari A, Kiari Streets, and other roads today, I pray that we all continue to move forward, united in purpose, bold in vision, and unshaken in our belief that a greater Nigeria is not only possible, but already under construction. It is now my honor to inaugurate this road to the glory of God and service to humanity. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all of you for your support and cooperation. May God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and may we continue to work together for the betterment of our nation.
We flagged off this project October last year, and this project is supposed to be 1 year, 12 months. But here we are. The project will be completed within 8-9 months. And that's why we have always said, give to those who have the capacity to deliver for the benefit of the people. For those of you who said that will sell your houses for not paying your ground rent, see the value, see the product of paying your ground rent. If you don't pay, nobody will provide this infrastructure because the only thing the city has is just to collect tax. The Deputy Speaker is the one representing you. Mr. Deputy Speaker, see what we are talking. If you know you have land here and you have not paid, I will publish your name that you have not paid. It has nothing to do that I want to embarrass you. No. We need the money to do the work that we are doing. No poor man can build these houses. No poor man. These houses are being built by rich men. So you have to pay. So that we can carry out the job, we carry out development for the interest of our people.
Coming up tonight, Global Action, Local Impact will bring you the latest on this year's commemoration of the World Sickle Cell Day. After the break, stay with us. Welcome back. Let's take you back to our top stories tonight about News Central's first ever town hall series in the Northeast, which was held today. Let's bring in Ambassador Sheriff Benny Sheikh, Director of Training and Recruitment at the Borno State University. Thank you so much for your patience, and thanks for joining us tonight. What were your takeaways from the town hall? Yes, I can hear you. We understand that there is about a 5 seconds delay, and we get that. But if you can hear me again, I wanted to know what your thoughts were about the town hall meeting and if there were any actionable plans to back up the talks.
Yeah, I was in the town hall meeting. I was there representing my Vice Chancellor, Professor Engineer Babagana Zulum.
That's right. And what were your thoughts about it? Did it address any major issues that you also were concerned about?
Although I was not called to respond then, however, it is not too late for me to say it here. Our gratitude goes to the Vice President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Kashim Shettima, and His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Borno State, Engineer Professor Babagana Zulum, for all the efforts they've been making from 2011 to date. In the education sector, where we develop human capital, His Excellency Senator Kashim Shettima, during his time, he made sure that the orphans whose parents were killed by the insurgents were taken care of, housed very well. Those who are of the school age were taken to schools on scholarship from government. When Professor Zulum came on board, he continued with the resilience he took over from his predecessor. University being a study of learning, ours is to train people from all sectors of human existence. One of the efforts that has gone on record is that Professor Babagana Zulum, His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Borno State, directed the State University to admit 100 students from each local government, with the exception of Maiduguri Metropolitan, Bama local government, Biu local government, and Jere local governments, where 200 each were asked to be sponsored by government. We were asked to admit these students from the state local governments for remedial programs, which we did. Government paid their school fees. We trained them for 1 year. They sat for JAM. And one thing very particular, very exceptional is His Excellency said, make sure you have admitted those people that have undergone the remedial programs in the Borno State University, taking into cognizance the JAM score lines, which every university has its peculiar marks, which is not below 130. It may interest you to note that after the first set have undergone the remediation program, very many of them scored high marks, and they were admitted, most of them were admitted into the university program in the various courses. That, of course, is a landmark achievement.
And yet,
during the town meeting of the program, people from all walks of life have contributed and hailed the Commissioner of Education and His Excellency for the wonderful things they have done to these vulnerable people.
Ambassador Sheriff.
Thank you.
And yet, 50.5% of boys and 31.8% of girls in Borno State, data shows that their literacy rate is pretty low, and that 74.8% of children aged 4 to 16 have never attended school. Try to paint me the picture of the disconnect between literacy in all of the figures that you have reeled out today. Ambassador Sheriff Beni Sheikh is having technical issues joining us, so we're going to move on to other stories. Oh, now he's back online. Let's take all the stories now. The World Health Organization has released its first ever global guideline on the management of sickle cell disease during pregnancy. In a statement issued on Thursday to commemorate the 2025 World Sickle Cell Day, the organization says that the guideline would address critical and growing health challenges that could threaten both women and babies. The theme of this year's World Sickle Cell Day, annually celebrated around the world on June the 19th, is Global Action, Local Impact, Empowering Communities for Effective Self-Advocacy. Sickle cell disease is a group of inherited blood disorders characterized by abnormally shaped red blood cells that resemble crescents or sickles. Let's bring in quickly Dr. Jonathan. He's an assistant professor of public health, Babcock University. He joins me from Ogun State, southwest Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us. Sickle cell anemia is it a public health emergency? Nigeria bears the highest burden. About 2 to 3% of the population has the disease, with about 150,000 newborns affected every year. And hear this, 50 million people carrying the sickle cell trait. Is it a public health emergency?
Thank you very much for your question. Is it a public health emergency? I think the figures for themselves speak loud of it being a public health emergency. For you to have the number of individuals, over 100,000, dying as a result of preventable ailment, I think that is very clear, an indication that we are heading towards a slope where if measures are not taken, then a lot of the population will be plunged into this reality. So to give an answer directly to your question, it is indeed a public health emergency, as we are seeing the figures keep soaring on an annual basis.
Here's more figures that are quite disturbing. Nearly half of the affected children die before their 5th birthday. Those who survive face a life expectancy that hovers around 21 years, much lower than the life expectancy of people with the disease in high-income nations, which is 54 years. I mean, take a look at that, 21 to 54. What are low-income countries doing wrong?
It is not a factor of location. But in my opinion, there are confounding factors. And in fact, I will put it this way, to say that the cause is multifaceted. So you have the problem of advocacy, you have the problem of information, that is knowledge, how is the population knowledgeable about this situation? And then of course you have the problem also of the health care of itself. So you will see that the status, you will see also that the figures in developed countries is somewhat a little less than what you have here, because they have an improved healthcare system, of which the reason why we have these cases in the developing country, among many other factors, is also the problem of the fact that our healthcare system actually needs more attention than it actually does deserve, or as it is receiving right now. So you actually have a population that is, in my opinion, ill-informed of what are the consequences of certain action that we take. So if we will improve on that, then you will see the figures will begin to adjust, as the time rolls by. So it is not that developing countries have done something wrong, or it is not that developing countries are because they are developing, so they have to keep developing with problems. No, it is a multifaceted narrative. As I have mentioned earlier, knowledge, advocacy, awareness, and then of course, rejigging the health system on its own in order to be able to address, some of these issues that are confronting the population.
How do you think this year's theme, global action, local impact, actually addressed some of the underlying factors driving the disease in Nigeria?
The theme is spot on, and it will make and resonate and make more sense better when we contextualize that theme. And in simple terms is to say, listen, we need to look more inward as to how do we tackle this reality. So globally, it is a problem that confronts, and it has no, it doesn't care about your economic status. No. However, we can be able to have local solutions. And one of the cheapest, the easiest, is information. And once information is out, people can be able to make informed decisions as to how some of these issues can be, can be mitigated within the population.
Speaking of context, one of the things that we heard repeatedly when I was much younger, I'm still very young, but much younger, is they advise us to get your genotype when you're dating someone. If you're AS, your parents will go strongly against you dating someone who is AS before you eventually fall in love. In fact, these days when you go on dates, you're asking what's your genotype because you don't want to waste time. How does sickle cell disease impact daily life, relationships, and long-term goals? And what are the most significant challenges for those, as a preventive measure for those who are, planning to get married?
I'm glad that your conclusion question, it's almost like an answer to it's like you gave an answer before the question. Indeed, indeed, it is quite, it is informative for any individual who will be having a partner, a lifetime partner, and or, regardless of how you will want to put that into context. Now, having a partner, because it requires two individuals for you to be able to come forth with an offspring that will be clinically diagnosed to have sickle cell. And so, if both parents are carriers, it then tells you that the chances of the next generation, of their offspring, to come down with this ailment called sickle cell, the chances are higher. So the first point of call is individuals to be aware of what their genotype is. Okay? So once you know your genotype, then you are already on the path of prevention. However, listen, There are individuals who strongly believe that they have the solution, they can go ahead to do this. It's just like saying that, yes, you can go ahead, spend 1 week at home, and spend the next 6 weeks in the hospital, because it is an excruciating situation. You have your child, always back and forth and traveling into the hospital just because you need to stabilize going forward. So in the context of what I am talking about, looking at it, locally or contextualizing it, it is, in my opinion, the fastest, the cheapest, and the best solution is having people informed that the choice that you make of a life partner, the key component is also to think about the offspring that you want to bring forth. Not unless you want to have a partner and not want to have children. But if children are part of the big equation, then you must bear in mind that the genotype of your partner is as important as the love that you profess for that person. And then, of course, I would have said that, the hospital will be the next option. But you and I know that as a country, there is so much effort that is being put in place to optimize the health system. So our health system currently is on the brink of becoming, getting into a new dawn. But until that is done, the current health system, does not have the absolute length and breadth, depth to be able to cater for even the existing population of individuals who are confronted with sickle cell. How much more of adding to this population of individuals?
Apparently there's a big conversation going on in my MCR. A lot of people know people living with this disease, and part of the issues that they've raised in my ears is we know people who inject themselves, self-medicate. God knows where they get all these ideas from. They never get better, they get worse, and at the end of the day, families lose them. Can you talk us through why people decide that certain kind of medications can heal them? How do you manage this disease, basically, effectively?
One of the earliest solutions that, medical care has brought to bear is bone marrow transplant. However, it is still not absolute. It's not 100%. There are still individuals that as they grow, the body begins to repel, blood cells. I'm trying to bring this conversation as minimal as possible so that the viewer who is listening at this point can be able to understand without going into so much of the clinical jargons, as the case may be. Okay? So you have that to play. The second is you already have individuals who are able to afford it. Right from the onset, the fetus, the fetus in this context now is the unborn child, okay? They see what the genotype of that child is, and then, of course, they abort it out. But even at that, think about what pressure you're going to put your partner in such a situation. Now, it also brings the question of morality. It also brings the question of termination of life. Those are multiple narratives. Now, this injection of a thing, there is so much miscommunication. And it goes back to the point that I made earlier, that if we are able to educate, communicate effectively, let people be aware, let people know, then they will know what appropriate position to take. Now, all of these injections that we are making reference to is actually coming from the pit of no solution, because it is a genetic event that the genes of an individual which carries who the person is. So injection cannot change what your genes look like. There are even individuals, let me even add to the multiplicity of the problem. There are individuals who go to prayer home with the hope that, after a series of prayer, a long-term fasting, all of this can change. Of course, I believe in the miracles of God. I believe there is nothing too difficult for God to do. But again, I'm also an ardent believer that God gave us a brain. He gave us a brain. It is not for decoration. There are things that he has also made the brain to be able to come up to, for us to be able to know that these are things that cannot be able to bring a lasting solution. So the injections that you are hearing about, that people are taking other options, it amounts to no good.
All right.
There are even individuals who talk about other kinds and forms of medications that it will change your gene. It is of no good.
Wow. Jonathan, we're going to have
if there is anyone who
there. You made that point and you've driven it home. And I mean, well said. Thank you so much. Dr. Jonathan Dangana, Assistant Professor of Public Health, Babcock University. Thank you for coming tonight. The International Committee of Red Cross is calling on Nigerian media organizations to pay more attention to humanitarian stories from conflict regions, particularly in the northern part of the country. Its public relations officer in Nigeria, Aliyu Daobe, made the appeal when he visited News Central Television in Lagos.
Journalists speak more on the data that is available, the number of deaths, the number of injured. But what about so many other people who are out there that are not able to have their stories told? So we encourage journalists in humanitarian reporting workshops to get a human angle story. A lot of people could be killed because of a conflict, but then you have millions others still surviving in a very, very difficult situation. So these are stories we encourage journalists to get access to, and we facilitate these stories to come out in the open. We also understand that journalists, whenever they are in the field, they also face some challenges, and one of the challenges is having injuries or seeing people injured.
Outside our shores, a court in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, has ordered 2 police officers who are suspects in the shooting of an unarmed bystander to be detained for most of 15 days. While investigations continue, the bystander, Boniface Karuiki, was on life support on Wednesday following surgery after the shooting, which triggered calls for new protests. Karuiki was shot by the police during clashes with protesters this week. Violent clashes erupted in the capital, Nairobi, on Tuesday after protesters demanding an end to police brutality were attacked by a large gang of motorbike-riding goons and police officers. Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping have called for de-escalation in the conflict between Israel and Iran following a call between the two leaders. The president showed a united front in their response to the escalating crisis on Thursday after their shared geopolitical rival, the United States, indicated it had not ruled out joining Israel's strike on Iran. During the call, Xi called for major powers to help cool the conflict in a thinly veiled reference to Washington, D.C. Russia, which has a strategic cooperation pact with Tehran, says it has been urging the U.S. not to strike Iran, warning it would dramatically destabilize the region and risk a nuclear disaster. Welcome back. Perpetua joins me now with the latest in business news. Perpetua, what do we have tonight?
Well, from Middle East tensions to also the U.S. says the end user payment. We'll come to all of that after this time out. Geopolitical tensions in the Middle East could significantly drive up oil prices, with Goldman Sachs estimating a $10 increase in Brent crude from its current mid-$70 level, and warning of prices exceeding $90 per barrel if Iranian exports are disrupted. Barclays echoed this outlook, forecasting Brent crude surpass $100 if conflict escalates and $85 if just half of Iran's 2 million barrels per day, mainly to China, are blocked. This could benefit Nigeria's earnings and further stabilize the naira due to increased foreign exchange earnings. Nigerian commercial banks have cleared 95% of the 180 billion naira debt owed to telecom operators for USSD services. This is according to Altin Chairman Benga Adebayo. He added that only 3 banks have completed their outstanding payments. The development comes as Nigeria fully transitions to an end-user billing model where subscribers now pay directly via airtime. Adebayo emphasized that telcos will ensure seamless transactions, but warned of potential failures originating from banks. He urged users to report double billing issues to their banks, stressing that deductions after airtime charges should not occur under the new billing system. To the stock market now, the bulls are not backing down just yet, and it was an all-round green day for the market. Investors' appetite for risk on assets intensified in today's session, driving month-to-date and year-to-date returns to plus 5.5% and 14.5% respectively. The gains in the market were primarily driven by tickers including MTN, Stanbic and First Holdco. Now let's take a look at the snapshot. We see it going to 117,000 mark, almost reaching the 118,000 mark, closing 117,861.13, up 92 basis points. And we also see market capitalization getting close, also maybe to 74.5, but of course it's 74.35 trillion naira, a big one if you ask me. Now to sector performance. The performance of all sectors under our coverage was positive. Beginning with the banking sector, we can see it's up 3.25%. I mean, banking continues to recover following Monday's sell-offs. For Fugas, we have Access Corporation, UBA, First Holdco, Zenith Bank, all of them ending the day in the green, with GTCO, of course, also supporting gains. The index closed up at 2.99%. And now looking at insurance, insurance is up 1.53%. Oil and gas is also up 24 basis points, consolidating Wednesday's gains. Meanwhile, the consumer goods reversed Wednesday's losses. Thanks to gains in Dangote Sugar, the sector gained 1.02%. And finally, the industrial goods closed higher by 16 basis points. And that's all on Business Tonight. I am Perpetua Fasome Peter. Tonight continues.
Onye is standing by with the latest in sports. Onye?
Yes, please. We've got new season, a new club for Super Eagles defender Semi Ajayi. I'll tell you more about that shortly. In sports, Nigeria's Super Eagles defender will play their group games in this year's CAF Nations Championship. Of course, it will be Hull City for Semi Ajayi, who just joined up with that team for a 3-year contract. It's been a long time for Super Eagles defender Semi Ajayi, who has been striving with the Super Eagles for a long time in a defensive capacity. And right now he joins Hull City as the latest defender for the 2025-2026 season. Of course, the 31-year-old Nigerian international joins them all the way from the 1st of July 2025. Ajayi, who has been capped 43 times by Nigeria, played every minute of the Super Eagles' run to the 2023 African Cup of Nations in Côte d'Ivoire. He becomes the 7th Nigerian to sign for the East Yorkshire side. Away from that, we've got Nigeria Super Eagles. They would have to play group games in this year's CAF Nations Championship, and it's been at the 15,000 capacity arena. Of course, it will be a statement for the CAF on Thursday, as Nigeria, who have been placed in Group D alongside with defending champions Senegal, Congo and Sudan, will play their group games at the facility, which hosted the second leg of the 2025 CAF Confederation Cup final between Simba and RSB Berkane in May this year. CAF has also announced that Tanzania's Benjamin Mkapa Stadium will host the opening match of the tournament. Kenya's Kasarani Stadium will host the final, while Uganda's Madala Stadium will host the 3rd place. Manchester City have been fined more than £1 million by the Premier League over delayed kickoff in 9 matches last season. Premier League officials announced on Thursday that Pep Guardiola's side had breached rules around kickoff and restart times between October and February. The longest delay was 2 minutes and 24 seconds before the resumption of the Manchester Derby at the Old Trafford in December. The Premier League said City had accepted the breaches and apologized for the incident. Of course, American Brian Norman Jr. retained the WBO welterweight world title by stopping Jin Sasaki with an explosive punch in Tokyo, Japan earlier today. The 24-year-old dropped Sasaki twice in the first round, and the 23-year-old Sasaki tried to fight fire with fire in front of his home crowd. But that approach was punished in the 5th when Norman Jr. landed a powerful left hook. The shot put Sasaki out cold, and the Japanese fighter was walked on by medics for several minutes before being taken out of the ring on a stretcher. The American extended his unbeaten record to 28-0, adding his 22nd knockout and his third stoppage in a row. Norman Jr. did have his sights set on fighting IBF and WBA champion Jaron Boots Ennis, but his domestic rival confirmed this week that he had moved up in the weight rankings. And that's it in the world of sport. I am Onyinyechi Obaro. Tonight continues.
It's time for entertainment news with Edewa. Edewa, what do we have tonight?
Well, Olamide is in the news again because he dropped a 20-year career album for people to enjoy, and this is a self-titled album as well, but I'll give you all the details shortly.
All right.
All right, in entertainment, Olamide Bado is at it again. He has released his self-titled 11th studio album, Olamide, marking a major milestone in his 20-year career. The 17-track project showcases his evolution as an artist and features high-profile collaborations with Wizkid, Sheyi Vibes, Dr. Dre, Popcan, Ashake, and more. With themes of resilience, growth, and cultural pride, the album blends introspection and street energy, reflecting Olamide's journey from a local star to a global force. Olamide builds on the momentum of hits singles like Kai and 99 and follows the recent Grammy nomination for Best Global Music Album. The project not only highlights Olamide's influence in nurturing new talent, but also reaffirms his legacy as one of Afrobeat's most prolific and impactful voices. Big ups to Olamide on that one. Now let's talk about something quite interesting. Now, Kelvin Hunter, ex-husband of Wendy Williams, has filed a $250 million lawsuit against 48 individuals and entities he claims enabled her restrictive legal guardianship. Filed on June 17, 2025, the lawsuit targets Wendy's guardian, Sabrina Morrissey, George Lisa Sokolov, and Wells Fargo, her care facility, and others, alleging they violated her constitutional rights and describing guardianship as a civil death. Williams, placed under guardianship in 2022 and later diagnosed with dementia, has publicly described her living condition as suffocating. Hunter is demanding a jury trial, a new guardian, unsealed court records, and compensation for damages. He also wants to be named her legal next friend. Interesting. Well, Adeshawa, quickly, what do you think about this ex-husband fighting on her behalf? What do you think?
They were once lovers. They were once in love. They once made a life together.
Wow.
You know, for old time's sake, if that's the only person left in her life who wants to do something for her, who can actually take up some kind of leadership, then so be it.
Okay. Well,
it's a good thing. It's actually heartwarming to see.
Yes, it's quite heartwarming. Let's hope the court would probably file in their favor. Fingers crossed. All right. Well, that's all we have on entertainment tonight.
That's the news tonight. But before we go, here's a reminder of our top stories. Call to rebuild Nigeria's northeast intensify as New Central TV hosts town hall series in Borno State. Senate committee probes the NNPC Limited over 210 trillion naira discrepancies in financial statement. Russian president and Chinese counterpart call for de-escalation in the Middle East, criticize Israel's attack on Iran. Please send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number coming on your screen. Follow us on all social media platforms. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, AVO TV, and of course on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Adeshawa Josh. I'll see you around.